one of the things I like to say with a lot of our partners and suppliers, and I call them partners, not suppliers, but is having those open conversations and solving together. Like we're not the smart guys in the room. We're not going to come and tell people how to do the business. I want to share in the challenge, and let's figure out the solution together. And we've formed a lot of relationships that way with a lot of our core partners, and I think that's partly what I'm excited about today. It took us 4 years of working through this as we thought about the technology and how we're going to improve and looking at all the different facets of it. And I think we're in I'm excited, right? I'm excited about what is yet to come.
Oil and gas makes modern life possible. The energy the world requires today and tomorrow will come from decisions made in the oil field today. Oil and gas will remain the leading source of fuel to power affordable energy that is sustainable for the billions of people that depend on the success of the industry. The oil field is a group of people, companies, technologies, and institutions working towards providing the world with safe, clean, storable, and transportable power. The Oilfield 360 podcast is a 360-degree deep dive into the leaders of the industry, who will provide listeners with a first-hand account of what it takes to build, maintain, and lead the energy business into the future. The Oilfield 360 podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors. United Airlines. As Houston's hometown airline, United has long been the preferred carrier of the energy sector. United for Business offers a range of programs and discounted travel options built for all of your energy, resource, and marine travel needs. Get started at united.com/business. Piper Sandler. The energy and power team of Piper Sandler is committed to the global energy industry and delivers exceptional client services in M&A advisory, capital markets execution, institutional sales, and investment research. For more information, please visit pipersandler.com/energy and power.
Welcome to the Oilfield 360 podcast. My name is Josh Lowry. I'm coming to you live from the Fletch Azul podcast studio in Houston, Texas. I am joined, as usual, with the co-host extraordinaire, Mr. David DeRode. How are you, sir?
Doing well, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. As it hasn't gotten any easier to remember to say this stuff and look at the camera at the same time. So anybody who's listening to this podcast, you need to go check out our YouTube channel and see if I did a good job. By the way, how'd you like that segue? Just kind of cross-promote in the middle of my introduction.
Oh, yeah.
Did I forget to do anything?
No, you draw attention to people listening to you and looking at you, but per usual. And yeah.
Well,
it's all about Josh.
Yeah, welcome to the Josh Hour.
Yeah.
Josh Lowry's going to talk about himself in the third person today. So, honestly, it's been a while since we've done one of these.
Yeah, it's been a little while. It's been a little while.
Summer vacation kind of took over.
Yeah, but I don't think we stopped working on things. We've got building out the podcast studio. We got a lot of stuff going on. You've apparently not only gotten some new shoes with new shoelaces,
yes,
but also some multicolored socks.
These are frac socks, actually. Look at that.
Look at that.
I wore these in honor of our guests we're having on today. So we'll talk about them in a minute.
Buddy.
It's more about Josh before I get to them. But you real quick.
You go, little partner, in some corduroy pants for the cool weather. I mean, look at
I didn't work out at all during the pandemic. And
yeah, I messed that one up too. Could have totally taken advantage of that.
I had to give away all my clothes, so I had to go buy new clothes because nothing fits anymore.
I didn't give anything away. I just had Abdullah make me some more.
Oh gosh,
the tent maker.
Real quick, you talk about one. I do want to acknowledge that we did build 2 new studios.
Yeah.
While we were on vacation, I guess you could call it, on break. So we're going to be having an open house party coming up to advertise the 2 new studios that we've got. One's a little bit smaller, kind of a lounge, we're calling it. One's more of a technology studio. And then we're kind of going to revamp what we're calling the studio, which is what we're in now, the Fletch Azul studio. So very exciking stuff.
We've got the newsroom deal where Mr. Hunt can go do his
live
Fox News
live
streams. Live streams, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, again, I could talk about me for the entire time, but we need to get to our guests.
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce? This is, by the way, I'm excited. Not only are we coming back, we're coming back with some heavy hitters today.
Absolutely. So we want to introduce Warren Zemlak and Caleb Barclay, the CEO and COO of BJ Energy Solutions, longtime clients and friends, big supporters of them, have been trying to get Warren in here for 2+ years. And I'm glad. We were patient. He was patient because the wait is well worth it. I think is you'll hear as we have our conversation this afternoon. So I'm really glad to have both of you guys here, and
welcome, gentlemen.
Privileged to have you
Thanks
here,
for having us.
and look forward to sharing your story with the world. And
let's just
telling
talk about
people
what
about
2
what you're up
years
to.
waiting looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, when you say 2 years, that's not just a normal 2 years. This is a COVID 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot has taken place in the last 18 to 24 months. How are you guys doing?
We're doing okay. I think we've obviously had a lot of challenges through this period, and but I think at the same time we've stayed focused on what we believe in and some of the technology things that we were incubating back in 2018. So
just for, I'm sorry to cut you off. Just for the audience's standpoint, that is Warren talking. The Canadian voice.
That's the Canadian voice.
That's Warren.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to identify those who don't know who is who. So
Yeah.
we
If
have
you're not looking at Josh on YouTube, you hear the voices.
Yes,
It's
so we have a
good.
resident Canadian, and so that's the first guy.
I'm legal.
Yeah, welcome down. So yeah, but I just wanted to make sure the audience knew who was speaking here. So
Yeah, thanks.
It's
Yeah.
been what?
Yeah. So yeah, we've been focused on, and obviously we're rolling out some new technology around emissions reduction. We're really excited about it. We feel like whether it's good timing and just the evolution of this is really worked out in our favor, I believe. So
Wait a minute.
Right?
Wait a minute. We're not jumping into this. You're going too soon into this. We have a whole pandemic to jump through. Like we can't
Let's
just
go
go,
there.
we can't just go from the world ended 18 months ago into how great things are going now.
Yeah,
How come? Did you buy new pants?
I did.
Okay,
did,
so
yeah. I had a
you
new shirt,
something went
new
bad
shirt.
for you over the last 18 months,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
good. I'm not the only one that had to buy new pants. Okay.
It's just we're trying to forget about what happened 2 years ago. So.
Yes. Yeah, you guys. I mean, look, you guys, and that's Caleb speaking. Thanks. Good to have you on as
Yeah,
well.
thank you.
So you guys have not just had a development of new pants, for instance, some of the personal struggles that everybody in the world's had to deal with. You guys have also dealt with the market, dealt with a lot of changes, led groups of people along. Some of it's been public out there.
Yep.
What's that been like? I mean, what does that look like as leading through an 18-month pandemic along with an actual business to run?
Well, maybe I'll let you ground level. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it has been a wild run. I mean, David, we've known David for a long time, and it's been great to meet you along our journey here. But certainly, BJ Services, we went from a company that had essentially 4 frac fleets, and in 12 months went from 4 to 32. So tremendous growth and bringing on and growing our team significantly that very first year of operation. And then we spent the better part of 3 to 4 years building that out. It's a brand new business, but the size of a mature business that you would have evolved to over 20 years, we did it in one. And it felt like I guess it would have been in 2020, we're really starting to hit our stride. In the first quarter, we felt like, man, we're finally starting to stabilize. We weren't growing. We were just getting really good at what we were doing, and I think in that first quarter we had as many frac fleets as really anybody, in the market. But our crews and our teams were really hitting on all strides. And then, of course, we get through the end of the first quarter, and all of a sudden there's not as much oil and gas needed, right, in the market anymore, with COVID hitting. And so then it was, let's change again. So we certainly started, trying to morph into a completely different company, and then had different challenges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if I think back, Josh, to 2017 when we all recognized that it was what we acquired in that whole transaction was an older fleet, right? Mm-hmm. We never hid from that fact. I think the team did a phenomenal job, and that's what's so exciting about this business is going through that ramp that Caleb talked about. We also recognized very early on, this is back in 2017-18, that something new is going to evolve, right? And if you remember back then, ESG wasn't the headline story. It was, it was about scale. It was about efficiencies. It was about cost reduction. And so we went through a number of, processes to kind of reevaluate the assets that we acquired, but also what we're going to do that, in the future to replace those assets, knowing that they had a shorter life. That's ultimately what spawned some of the things that we're dealing with today, and the success we've had is looking at that technology and what would be the next generation as we thought about it. And in 2018, we kicked that project off. So,
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people appreciated what you guys went through because, back
Yeah.
before it was BJ, it was Allied, and y'all had a business plan.
Yeah.
Keep it, small,
Yeah.
tight.
Yeah.
Y'all were focused on culture development, leadership training, all these things that we'll talk a little bit more about a little bit later, building the company. And then suddenly, Charlie, we got BJ, and that was like birthing a baby elephant. Like, people don't appreciate how many people, like, you went from being a relatively small player, very focused, to suddenly being a multi-basin, multinational company with thousands of employees, literally overnight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that deal was literally happened right around Christmas time. I remember that disrupted
2016.
everybody's
Oh, wow.
Christmas time,
Yeah.
and that
There was Christmas that year? I don't remember.
I don't think there really was, actually, but I mean, I don't think people appreciate that. I mean, the Jamie Stewart, who we've had on here before, he kind of experienced that with Surefire back when he built up Surefire. It was just like boom, he suddenly had to go hire like 400 people literally in less than a week to go meet the demand for all the pumps he was building at the time at Surefire. And of course, that's another story.
Yeah.
Cycle called him, but I mean, that took a lot of effort. But I think you guys were attacking that, and I had some inside view of things that a lot of people didn't. I mean, y'all were attacking, high grading the equipment issue, while at the same time looking for opportunities to introduce new technologies, develop new technologies, take some pre-existing technological thoughts that have been around for a while that never got executed, as well as trying to develop a culture, focusing on the people, competency around what you're doing, all these things that go into building a well-oiled machine. And, had we had the market that we're walking into now, things might have been a different story. But it was the timing of things. But I'm really excited about what we're going to get into here in a little bit. But before we do that, can we kind of take y'all back just a little bit and get each of you to kind of give our listeners just some insight to where you came from, how you got in the business, and then how that kind of shaped you to where you are now and how you're leading your business going forward? Because y'all are not just executives. Y'all started in the field, and if you wouldn't mind, talk about a fella coming in from Canada, Western Canada, and how it all got started.
Yeah, I mean, mine's a longer story, so cut me off. But I started the industry. I grew up in a small farming community, as all farmers do in Canada. And in the winter times, you got to make some money, right? And the oil fields were pretty attractive to that. I think growing up, my uncle was deep in the business. He worked for a company called Van Systems, which was ultimately acquired by Halliburton. But I used to be enamored with his stories about, he traveled overseas a lot in Arctic and got to do a lot of cool things. And as a kid, you're hearing these stories, and like that was the attraction. It was why I love this industry, right? And so as I kind of went through, graduated and got into college, I was going to start to pursue more of an accounting background, and sorry to those folks, but it wasn't for me. I went to work the winters and the summers in the oil fields to put some money in the bank, and ended up staying, right? So I started out, mine's a little bit of a unique story. I started out in ground level. I ran equipment. I drove trucks. I started out as a cementer, right? I mean, quite frankly, back in, I guess, 88, 89. Got into fracturing. It's interesting at that time. I got into fracturing at a time when what a lot of our technology is today, direct drive turbine frac pumps, was real. They were being utilized, and that was with Dowell, which was acquired by Schlumberger, and great company. Gave me a lot of opportunities to develop. I evolved then into coiled tubing. All working in Western Canada at the time. I spent my first 10 years of my career doing that. And again, ground level, everything from supervising then into management. At that time, I also worked in a lot of different remote locations. Arctic, did some stuff in the early days of some of the early Hibernian offshore, supporting some of that. And then got into multi-zone frac. Who would have known, right? This is shallow gas, vertical fracs. Did some things around tools and coiled tubing and frac that Caleb loves to see the two on the same site. We'll talk about that. But essentially, that was my opportunity. And again, Schlumberger being a great company in terms of developing, and at that time, the industry was live and well. I got the opportunity to come down to Houston my very first time. This is my 4th time back. I might as well call myself a citizen here, right? So,
Yeah.
But I came in to do some product development around multi-zone systems. Did a lot of travel overseas. Moved 13 times. Through the course of that, I've bounced back and forth between technology and into running operations. I've lived in multiple countries. Indonesia. I've worked in West Africa and the Middle East and South America, and done a lot of cool things. Like, I look back at my career, and that's what I loved about this industry, right? So that, during the later years, I got the opportunity to go work in Russia for about 4 years. I met a lot of great people. Really loved the challenges and the environment over there. But then I was pulled back to be part of the North American, running the well services side of the business here in North America. And at that time, the family now is getting to a place. I have 2 children that were kind of getting into the latter years, and we thought it was time to probably go back, right? And so we went back to Canada and went to a small privately owned, family-owned company, and that has its own unique challenges and experiences. But I really think helped me kind of grow professionally and think about things differently too. And ultimately, that led to leaving that, which was a difficult story, into the opportunity to work with the private equity and Charlie and folks, and we did the carve out ultimately of the BJ product, and that's where it evolved. So, that whole story was 30-some years, and
how fast does 30-something years feel?
It's when I look at my children now, it tells me. You think about things, all the great opportunities, but you also think about the things you might have missed, or
because you talked about like 1988, 89. I'm sure you remember that vividly.
Oh yeah.
And now we're in 2001, almost 21,
Yeah.
on the way to 22.
Yeah, and I love the industry. I see, one of the things I enjoy about this is seeing people grow and have those opportunities. It's obviously a very different industry today. It's got its new challenges, but again, that's part of the fun, right? Mm-hmm. It's let's hit it head on. Let's figure out how we overcome. And this industry gets a lot of negativity, but I will also say it's an industry that continues to evolve, and we will find a way and do our part, right? So.
Prang & Associates, the global energy search leader. Prang & Associates is the world's leading executive search firm totally dedicated to the energy industry. Over our 39 years, we have assisted more than 750 management teams and boards in 75 countries and conducted nearly 3,600 engagements. For more information, please visit prang.com. Range Valuation Services. Range is the only oil and gas-focused valuation and appraisal firm in the financial services industry. Range specializes in appraising and valuing oil field equipment, machinery, inventory, and property, and customarily works directly with clients, lenders, investment bankers, insurers, and private equity and debt sponsors. For more information, please visit rangevaluationservices.com.
What does it look like? Yeah, he keeps saying it's been a shorter story, but it's not because there's not the same challenge. It's just
I'm 10 years younger.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's just be honest here. I got more room to run.
Okay.
That is true.
No, it's obviously it's a little different story. But when I think about that, what you said, Josh, in terms of how do you get here? There's a lot of influences along the way, and I guess I go back to, I went to Colorado State University, getting an engineering degree in bioresource engineering, which is really taking an engineering degree and applying it to environmental sciences. And I think about where we are now, so that's kind of interesting. And even in college, I always enjoyed, doing my own thing, hands-on. And so I started an exterior painting company when I was in college, ran that for a couple of years. And so I always really liked the entrepreneurship, and doing, kind of putting your hands on, influencing kind of where you went. And so I was getting out of college and saw my colleagues getting, jobs and looking at where they were going. I just couldn't fathom sitting behind a desk, 8 to 5. At least that's what I was telling myself. And I love the outdoors, love to hunt, love to fish. And so I started looking for jobs like, how can I get an engineering job but stay outside, be more hands-on. And I didn't know anything about the energy industry, frankly, anything about the oil field. And I started, interviewing, and I met, a company, Schlumberger. That's where, one of our ties start. And here's a job that was really pitched as not 9 to 5.
What year are you talking about here?
So that would have been 2000.
2000.
So, a little over 20 years ago. So, not 9 to 5 and outdoors. And so those things really started resonating with me. And then I got to realize, how challenging it could be and exciting. So I took the leap, and got into the energy industry and was really, new for me, all of it. So just didn't realize that this was an industry where it had some of the hardest working individuals in any industry sector. And so that's where I started as a field engineer, working in the Permian Basin before it was really the true Permian Basin that we know today. A lot of vertical type well completions and whatnot. And spent 3 years there. And then, I think my roots of, being more hands-on, more entrepreneurial really started to take, I learned a tremendous amount. Schlumberger is a great place to learn. They do a great job at that. But I wanted to branch out and do something that was smaller. And so I joined a private oilfield company, Sangel, at the time, and when we were just tiny, and was able to participate, help grow a really great team there. And I was actually there for about 13, 14 years. And that's how I met Warren along the way. And we really hit it off. And unfortunately, that came to a really tough end after we built something extremely special. But I think there were a lot of learnings that we both took from there, being a private company, very family oriented. And I think there was a tremendous amount of alignment with my values, Warren's values around people and culture and really taking care of your team, which would ultimately take care of the client, which, you achieve what you want to achieve. It feeds itself, right? And we weren't on a quarterly treadmill, and all those things that help you really.
Is this the same thing that you said was a tough ending? Okay.
Yeah.
Same company.
Yeah. So, it was a company we just absolutely loved and the team that we had built there. And so, that's obviously Warren and I, we talked about what are we going to do next. And, we had I think we had incubated a lot of great things, within that company and that we were able to take. And there were so many other team members also looking for, where are they going to go next? And so it was kind of like, well, how do we just help take all of this, forward? And so we were afforded a great opportunity, like you said, David, to work with CSL and go out and acquire some assets that we thought we were going to stay small and allied.
That was the game plan.
Yeah, that was the game plan. And I don't think we did our first frac job before it changed. But anyways, that's how we got
Mike
to
Tyson
here.
has the best line of all time. Everybody has a plan until you get hit in the face.
Yeah.
It's the greatest line because I'm sure you did have a plan. My 2020 was going great.
Yeah.
It just was. Who wasn't geared up for their best year in their career in the early parts of 2020?
After all we've been through since 2017 to 2020, Q1 was our best quarter, right? We were really feeling good about the year, and man, how things changed.
Right? I wrote an email the other day describing, this was just 2 days ago or like whatever day we're on today, and it was talking about, and I'm sure everybody in here can remember, not as dramatic as some of the life-changing events of our life, but I bet you remember where you were when oil went to minus 40.
Oh, yeah.
And you just sat there and watched it. And I remember being terrified when it was maybe 17 and 15, like, oh my God. And then by the time it goes negative, everybody in the office was cracking up.
Yeah.
Like, this is hilarious. Let's see how low this can go. It was just unbelievable how bad it got there for a minute.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember when it went down to 9, vividly, as I was a younger guy at the time, and I remember what happened afterwards. So my first thought when you're seeing this event, the feeling for me was things are about to change. They're going to change drastically.
When you say down to 9, you're talking either like 97, 98?
That would have been, about that time frame. Yeah. I remember sitting. It's kind of funny. I was in Sugarland at the time in a different role, but I vividly remember standing in the hallways, and it was shock for everyone, to watch that happen, right?
I remember I interned when it was $12 a barrel, and the guy that I worked for said, "Man, if we could just get back to 30, we'd be doing great." They just wanted $30 a barrel. They couldn't believe how low it was.
Yeah.
So all right, so we've caught up. Now you've kind of brought from the 89, 90, and then 99 to 2000 time frame. You've caught it. So it's interesting. You never went offshore. You were a land guy your entire career, Caleb.
Yeah, the entire time. Like I said, I was in the Permian Basin, and then from there, when I took the new role with Sangel, moved to Denver, and I was there for 13, 14 years. So yeah,
I would kind of want to hear some of the stories, and David, jump in when you want to, or anybody. But I bet it was interesting to see, Midland Permian Basin in 2000, 2001 versus 2006.
Yeah.
When fracking really exploded.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, what's the difference in the town and the oil feeling at that time? Oil field, I should say.
Yeah, well, I think that one of the biggest things was that was an oil field that, wasn't necessarily on the same 24-hour clock that we are today. If you were asked to work, extended hours, that was one thing. But, today we fracked 24 hours a day. Back then you didn't. I lived in Hobbs. There was no infrastructure like we know it today. I mean, you think of just the development. I mean, I still remember when an Applebee's showed up and the entire town shut down to, go out to dinner somewhere like that, right? It was a completely different place than today, and the massive growth that they had to go through as Midland, Lubbock, Hobbs, that greater area went through drastic change to accommodate all this growth over the last, 15 years. So
it's an interesting point. The 24/7.
The DoubleTree was a little bit more fresh back then too.
Yeah. The Midland DoubleTree.
Yeah.
But I remember going. I guess I was just trying to think. 1998, I was sat down. I was still up in Canada. Sat down to do some foam acid jobs, cold tubing type stuff. And it was relatively new technology at the time for some of the carbonates, and being sat down there, and there was nothing. I mean, the town was, people would talk. It was washed out. It was done. It's over. That was the kind of the communication. It's how crazy to think back how Midland continues to survive, right?
Yeah.
Third, fourth time, right? So
now it's the epicenter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's incredible.
Yep.
Yeah.
I graduated in 2000, right? That's when I got out of college, and I'm from a family of oil field, and nobody in my family wanted me to come into it just because there was no.
It was done.
It was done. Like I said, 30.
Yeah.
If we could just get back to 30.
Yeah.
And I had such a kind of romantic view of it that I was like, I'll try it out, and I'm glad I did. But I also remember a blow-up preventer being our largest product in 2005, and then all of a sudden, 2006. We were selling more fluid ends than anybody, and nobody wanted to talk about a BOP anymore. And I'm like, what's a fluid end? Like, what's a frac pump? Yeah. And they're like, it doesn't matter. That's all that anybody wants to buy anymore. And they were just as fast as you can. And people were, I don't know. And I do actually want to. Look how good we haven't done these in a while, but watch how good this segue is. Ready? And then I remember a guy telling me, if you could get our fluid ends to 1,000 hours, we'll buy all of our fluid ends from you.
Mm-hmm.
Ready? It just naturally transitions. Now, you guys are fracking. If I were to tell you I can give you 1,000 hours on your fluid end, you'd be like, just get out of my lobby.
Yeah.
I imagine the technology development, what you guys are doing with the Titan, is just off the charts. What kind of technology development are you guys seeing in your fracking capabilities? I don't care about fluid ends. I'm not worried about that as much. But it's just like, what are you guys seeing? Like the developments from an 06 frac job to a 2021.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just got to be night and day, right?
Yeah. I think to me it's a collision of reliability. By the challenges we had in the industry, we have to find ways to do things more reliably, cheaper, right? And that spawns creativity. That spawned a lot of unconventional thinking to think, well, we can't accept these things. We can't pass that cost on to a client anymore. So to me, that was the epiphany for us to think about, we got to do things differently. And when I go back to 2017, that was one of the challenges. We were looking at this tier 2 fleet of equipment, saying, "Man, that's not good enough, right? I mean, how are we going to address this?" Electric fleets were exciting, but I also think digitization. I think about how we measure things, and one of the foundational things that I've learned a lot over the last 3 or 4 years is just measuring, never accepting good enough, always pushing ourselves. And it's interesting when you think, that's it, that's the best I can do, something else comes in, and you just continue to evolve. And I think that's what's exciting. So what we're doing today on the technology front has been some of that. It's been continuing to push the paradigm and finding different ways of doing it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Daniel Energy Partners, in-basin research you can trust. A leading provider of U.S. oilfield research, known for its original boots-on-the-ground research approach, as well as its famous barbecue events. Daniel Energy Partners utilizes both its extensive network of top oilfield professionals and frequent in-basin field tours to provide real-time market intelligence. Visit danielep.com for information. Locked In Global Energy and Marine, uncommonly independent. Locked In is the world's largest privately owned insurance broker and risk finance advisor. Locked In's global energy expertise is centered in Houston and represents the largest concentration of energy specialists, clients, and experiential knowledge in the upstream, midstream, and downstream segments of the oil and gas industry. Visit lockedin.com for more information. Upright Digital. Upright Digital specializes in partnering with your business to maximize marketing efficiencies. We have a deep understanding of people, their needs, motivations, behaviors, as well as the technologies that enable brands in many industries to utilize what is available in a changing digital landscape. Find us online at uprightdigital.com.
Talk to us a little bit about the transition from conventional equipment, which was largely legacy BJ, to Titan now. Obviously, still quite a few of the same folks come into play there, but you're dealing with a different type of kit now, equipment-wise, and it's smaller, less people on location, but still you have to have everybody, walking and rowing in the same direction, I guess. So talk to us about the kind of what y'all's view on development of people and competency around your business in general, and then I want to kind of talk about what y'all are doing at Titan, because I think it's pretty cool stuff that y'all have developed.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb is much closer to this today than I am, but I'll start off by saying that, when we were looking, we didn't come out and say, look, Titan's the way we're going to go. That was never the intent. It was kind of, I'll be honest, we were, through trial and tribulation, we were very focused on kind of the electric solution, trying to really understand what was going on. We ultimately laid out a few key objectives that we wanted to achieve. We recognized, it goes back to my point about we had to change. We had to reduce the cost. We had to get better reliability. People's always a challenge of continuing to track, retain, develop. So we wanted to make sure that we were doing things as well that kind of helped evolve that, right? And so as we went through a kind of an evaluation of the different technologies and outcomes, as we started checking our objectives in terms of what we wanted to try to achieve, the mechanical, the turbine technology, the direct drive had a lot of attractive pieces to it that we felt like that was the way to go. On the people side, as I think about equipment, there's two facets of it. As we thought about the equipment, the way we thought about it was we need to solve power first. Like, what is the best alternative for power? What comes into that is fuel costs. It's the emissions profile. It's a number of things. Mobility, right? I mean, there's things that, just by saying power, that encompasses a lot as you think through that. Then, I go to pump reliability. Josh laughs about fluid ends. I was sick and tired of seeing trailer loads of cracked fluid ends going out of our yards and thinking about the costs associated with that. He likes it. I didn't like it, right? But at the time, we were thinking through how do we get that better? How do we, is there better designs, better things? And we're continuing to evolve that. That's an interesting point. Then the people. So as you think about the skill sets that you want to build and skill sets that are easy to deploy without having to retrain your entire workforce, that's such an important factor. And then the whole safety piece of it too. As I think about making sure we're minimizing and always minimizing what we expose our people to, and how to make this a fun business, that it's not about the grind. Mm-hmm. It's about wanting to be here and wanting to participate and having fun doing it. That was part of what we thought through as well, right? So
yeah, and in general, David, I think on the people at the end of the day, that we went through this analysis of the equipment piece, but if you don't have a team that is all like-minded, you're not going to win. And I think being in the service business, it's the most crucial piece of our business, and it's the most difficult part of our business, mm-hmm. right? And people in general, they want to win. And I think in being many different companies, doing it a lot of different ways, I think it can get very complex in our industry because there are so many standards, there are so many rules that and you have your own, then you're working for different clients, they have their own. So really, starting BJ Services, we started from a playbook that we built, and again, I mentioned we incubated some things in the past, and it was really creating collective mindfulness around how we were going to do things. And we felt like if we could simplify this, boil it down to where, people can use simple tools and practices to achieve what we were trying to achieve, you win. And so, we took on these principles of high reliability organizations, organizations that are in complex and high risk environments that, consistently perform safely and efficiently day in and day out, like airlines, nuclear submarines. And it's like, if you could take that and apply it to the oil field, you win. And so we had a team member specifically that Warren recruited many years ago that was Canadian military, and in military firefighting they use a lot of these same principles. So we developed a program around high reliability organizations. We figured out how to operationalize it, give your crews in the field simple but straightforward tools that they could use, and it's all about this idea of continuous improvement. But it's how you operationalize that. It's one thing to say it, but it's how do you get your whole team saying it's never good enough, and being very critical of our performance on a task basis, a 12-hour basis, so you can get better, right? And so that's really, I would say, as much as the equipment has led to our success, our crews today in the field, having that kind of core is really what's helping us win.
Yeah, let's talk about continuous improvement. I think that's a concept that not a lot of people get, and I think you guys, again, being observant to what you guys are doing, engineered solutions around equipment design. I've watched y'all be very thoughtful there in what y'all have done, whether it's redesigning your missile or the Titan pump itself and continuous improvement there. But talk about what y'all have been doing also, and a lot of folks are kind of there and trying to get there, but from a monitoring perspective and the KPIs y'all are paying attention to, not only for your own benefit, but for the benefit of your customers so they understand what's happening in real time. Do you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, start. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Warren mentioned it earlier. I mean, first and foremost, you've kind of got to lay out your criteria of, what are you trying to achieve, and it's so crucial to have kind of be aligned with your clients. So that's really where we start. And then, we've put together a number of ways that we monitor that performance on a second by second, minute by minute type basis. And, if you measure, you can get better. And then I think, as a part of our HRO, we have, one of the principles is preoccupation with failure. So we're always looking at what went wrong, not what went right. And so when you get the whole team being really critical of themselves and forcing themselves to look at what do we need to improve upon, you get better. So, you kid us all the time. We're not out there waving our flag because we got too many other things to improve upon, right? And so anyways, I would say that is kind of a high arching, thesis of how we go about it. So.
You talked about, and I'm only bringing this up because I think it's a broader view of how, like, I don't want fluid ends getting trucked off, because that means if any person, David included, if any vendor, any service, any customer, partner, whatever you want to view it as, doesn't have the end goal in mind, then, and I'm really speaking to you guys, to your customers, then we're all screwed at some point. And ultimately, the industry's in trouble, right? Because then the industry is going to be too high price. It's not going to be clean enough. There's not going to be enough ESG development. There's not going to be enough personnel development. If we don't view the things you're describing as we're all in this together, then we're all doomed to sink together anyway. Sure. I think that's one of we off camera, we were talking about, why is this podcast even here? This podcast is here to talk about this exact subject from leaders like yourselves, to where I have been lucky enough to get to know you guys over the last couple of years, and this is not something that you're talking about because you're on camera. This is what you guys talk about. I know the military guy you're talking about from Canada. I've actually toured your facility up in Conroe, and I've seen how you guys are doing this. So this is something that you guys are actively doing, and when you talk about the costs that you can no longer pass on to your, that can't be, what does that look like? I mean, are you openly having these discussions with I don't want to get too much into your sales calls, but I mean, how active are these conversations? Like, look, we're going to partner with our entire value chain. I mean, is that something that's openly discussed?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's become core. It's again, it goes back to my point around we had, when you think about what we've gone through the last couple of years, we had to change. I mean, it's do or die. So as we came out of,
you could almost, with all respect, I didn't mean to interrupt. You could almost say the broader we the industry.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I excuse me, I make a joke about food end, but yeah, it's exactly having those conversations and working together. One of the things I like to say with a lot of our partners and suppliers, and I call them partners, not suppliers, but is having those open conversations and solving together. Like we're not the smart guys in the room. We're not going to come and tell people how to do the business. I want to share in the challenge, and let's figure out the solution together. And we've formed a lot of relationships that way with a lot of our core partners, and I think that's partly what I'm excited about today. It took us 4 years of working through this as we thought about the technology and how we're going to improve and looking at all the different facets of it. And I think we're in I'm excited, right? I'm excited about what is yet to come. Even more so, the responsiveness is, it's your point about we've got so many great partners now working with us, collaborating, and it's something we just continue to reinforce in our team. I will not, sitting in a meeting, allow my people to talk down to a partner. It's we're solving together, and that's just the reality. We have to make that change, right? So.
And part of that, the partner is your client, right? I mean, we're so excited about this new technology that David's alluded to. It would never have been successful if you didn't have the right client. And we had the right client that had that long-term view like we did. It's like, you're going to have challenges. You're going to get punched in the face, right? But it's how do you keep rolling with it and keep evolving? And I mean, clients are as equally as important as the actual, the suppliers that help us along the way.
Probably the word we should use more is transparency. It's just creating transparency, right?
What is the customer, client, partner, however you want to view it, on the above you look today versus 24 months ago? Because you talk about we've had to change. What do they look like today?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of them, and I think probably the key word is just collaboration. As Warren said, we're trying to solve for something different today, and it's not just going out there and trying to do it as quickly as you can and low cost as you can. It's how do you it's that combination of cost, reliability, environmental, impact, footprint. It's all of these other things that you're trying to solve for, and at the end of the day, they need to produce oil and gas as efficiently as possible. And there's a manner in which we do that today that has really taken center stage.
Well, I think several of the long-term contracts y'all have recently been awarded and negotiated as a testament to that kind of collaborative partnership with your customers, unlike on a call-out or MSA by MSA basis, which the business historically is operated off of. There's no guarantee that you're going to have the business or not get kicked off. And, of course, there's nothing necessarily ironclad, but y'all have got some pretty good contracts with your customers, and you've got customers that seem to be collaborating with you, because if you win, they win.
Listen, if this question's too much, just let me know. But I mean, as you've come through what we've come through in the industry, I just can't get over, as you're talking about the E&P guys and these different companies above, that their interest is producing oil, and there's so much pressure on them, right? There's a lot of publicity on those guys, really more so than our being the oilfield services sector of the world, right? Although a lot of technology and development comes from our sector, we don't get as much credit for it as probably deserved. How are you being viewed now? Are you turning the tide of how? Is there a technology twist that they're starting to see in you that maybe wasn't viewed before? Is that taking hold?
Yeah, I mean,
is that a fair question to ask?
It's a fair question. I mean, but again, I go back to the asset base. Just to oversimplify, there was a time when volumes mattered. Scale, availability, footprint. That was, I would say, kind of 2017 to 2020. That was certainly, part of the challenge was how do you build, how do you keep up, how do you sustain. I'd say today that's less important. I think the efficiencies and focus and addressing the bigger and broader issues, and the broader issues, let's face it, are ESG. It's all these other things that are coming at us now, right? And so as I think about where we sit vis-a-vis where we were in the past, I would probably say we spend more time today. It's not about, commercial terms gets you into the door, but there's other discussions now. It's about the efficiencies, about the emissions profile. There's a number of things that are on the table we never, quite frankly, talked about in the past.
Right.
So it's a very, very different view as I see it. I'm not saying it's the same for everyone, but certainly where we are, we're small. I mean, we've kind of reformed here, but I would say those are the conversations we're having, right? You have to be economic to play the game, but after that, there's other attributes our customers look for, right? So.
Talk to us a little bit about kind of, what a conventional frac spread would look like, the pumps and the blenders and the missile and all, the flow iron, all that kind of stuff compared to what Titan is today. Because I think most people, when they think of frac, they just see a location just littered with equipment, hoses and stuff going around. Not that it's a working environment that doesn't have a lot of moving parts and pieces all the time, but tightens things up quite a bit. Talk to us a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think as I think about the
that's good, by the way. Tightens things up.
Titan.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think for
we're gonna
us,
get that trademark before
we're gonna get it.
podcast.
Before we TM it right now. But as I think about David, and I said there's a lot of things we asked ourselves a lot of hard questions, and I'll call it attractive. You look at all the different nuances and things that people are pitching. There's a lot of misinformation. We had to ask ourselves a lot of hard questions around, truly evaluate kind of what's out there. How do we package it together? There's nothing innovative in terms of the components. It's the packaging. It's how do we approach it? Thinking about the design, the layout. So we were fortunate enough to work with a couple different partners on that front, but we continue to evolve and improve upon it, and that's where we got to. So to your point, the packaging is like, as I think about it, is the mobility, just less stuff. It's less pieces. It's less exposure, right? Forget about the cost of capital, which is one of the main drivers we thought about. But it's all the other opportunities to reduce and minimize waste, minimize handling, minimize the number of personnel that are out there. Not from the standpoint that I don't want to create jobs. It's more, how do I minimize and create a safer working environment? And again, people having fun. It's less hard labor, more innovation around how we can do things easier, simple. That's what we try to do is simplify the operations. As I think about all the different options that we had available to us, even think about the forms of a simple thing like mechanical connecting energy from an engine source to the pump. I mean, that's mechanical transfer is pretty simple vis-a-vis going through electrical systems and everything else. And there's a lot of complexities that we really weighed out. I mean, what's the true benefit of these things? And so that's ultimately what drove us to the outcome, right? And we're going to continue to evolve. We're not done. There's a lot of work. We focus on the pump design. We're working on the backside. We're continuing to look at that as well. We're looking at the handling. How do we reduce all the other impacts to carbon, trucking, and handling, and the rest of it? So I'm excited. Like I said, we feel like we're in chapter 1 here right now, right? So
yeah, and I mean, you talk about frac, and you think about frac, you think big, you think like you said, a lot of equipment. And I think that's what's really exciting when you go to one of our frac sites today, and you just get this feeling like this feels small. It just doesn't feel like we're capable of doing the same thing that we did before with all that other equipment, but you are. And frac, even conventional frac today is changing. I mean, your typical job, you have 18 to 22 pumps on location, and even that is being tested. Our clients are thinking about how do you do things differently, and now instead of fracking one well at a time, some are thinking about how do we frack 2 at the same time, or even 3 at the same time. So then you think about your horsepower requirements, and there's potential for them to double. A number of leading operators that push that up where you could need 30 or 40 pumps on location.
It's a great idea.
Right?
Beautiful idea.
Yeah. Yeah,
so especially the man who sells fluid ends.
Yeah. But now if you look at Titan, instead of a 20 pump spread, we can essentially do that with eight pumps on location, and so we're reducing our
terrible idea.
Yeah,
terrible.
Yeah.
Big pumps.
Oh, bigger fluid ends.
Yeah.
So anyways, we're cutting that in half, David, and so that's pretty exciting. When you go out and you see how much footprint is really required to put the same capability on location with half the iron.
What do you mean? It feels like we're in chapter 1. What does that mean?
I feel like we've like I said, our first I guess priority or focus was the pump design, but it's interesting. Let's talk about fluid ends and power ends today. That's technology that evolved from being driven by a diesel pump in 1940s, right? I mean, what's changed, right? In the fundamentals. So as we are thinking about different ways to power, and I think this also for electric fleets could be something similar, rethinking the whole chain again, like the mechanics of it. Is there a different way to design a pump for the amount of torque or power that you have available, and again continue to optimize? So when I say chapter 1, although we got a basic pump design, there's still components that can evolve. And I think the opportunity that we've afforded ourselves in thinking about how we approach this is actually our design teams today. We have our own engineering team, and they're working hard at everything from the backside to electrification to demanning, automation, incorporating a lot of the technologies that exist today and using in other industries. But even on component design itself, there's areas that I think we can significantly improve to reduce operating costs, increase reliability, and reduce footprint. We're working on confidentially some technology today. We think we can take it from 8 pumps to 6 and still have the same output, right? So there's things that continue to evolve and will continue to evolve, right? So.
Well, I mean, I have been lucky enough to see some of this in person, and to David's point, it's unique. I mean, it does look different. It does feel different. And again, to David's point, if Caleb, you kind of said that, and I can hear David saying, what are you guys doing to kind of promote this? How are you getting that message? Are you just going? Are you? You're both not. They're on the radio or podcast. They're both shaking their head. No, I mean
we're really bad at LinkedIn and stuff, right? So
okay.
I mean, frankly, that's just not our culture, right?
I think to your point, Josh, and I'm sure having a marketing company.
Well, I have no ulterior motives in that. I promise
upon
you.
us, but
I promise I don't. Because I remember seeing it the first time, going, This is totally different.
Yeah.
This is totally different.
I think that was somewhat strategic on y'all's part, though, too. I mean, you got to, everybody, is kind of dealing with some tough times, COVID and this, that, and the other, and then of course, not to hide the elephant in the room, kind of the shift between BJ and the inertia you had there, and this opportunity to kind of retool and move forward.
I remember there being the ability to transfer from nat gas to electric instantly, correct?
From diesel.
From nat gas to diesel without a loss.
Yeah. One of the things we want to do, as we're evolving, the availability of natural gas on site. So, as we power these fleets, we have the option to use LNG, CNG, but that brings additional costs, transportation, handling of gas. Ideally, the best state for us is to be pulling field gas off the location, off an adjacent location, and so our whole design was around that. The problem becomes reliability. So if you have a gas interruption, am I going to shut down the whole job and screen out and have an impact to my client? So as we thought about this was I talked about the checklist. This was another one that how do we create that backup? And so as we're looking at different turbine technologies and looking at different options, what was becoming very apparent to us is that having a dual fuel situation where for a period of time, uninterrupted, if we get a gas interruption, we can flip on the fly under power to we have these we call them day tanks, little saddle tanks on the unit that we can at least finish a job or go to flush or get ourselves fix the gas issue. It gives us about a 1 hour residence time, which is really important. You think about that, right? I have a gas interruption, and we've seen it firsthand in a couple of big events. You get a slug of fluid or something happens downstream that you're not even aware of. Our ability to kind of switch on the fly and not disrupt the job is really important. It goes back to availability.
So we have a huge audience. We believe it's the largest in the world of oil and gas. I mean, it's a big audience. It's almost 150 countries. That to me, is that a unique thing to BJ Energy, that ability to do that?
As far as I know, on the direct drive, mechanical drive, I think we're the only ones applying it today. I don't think the technology is that unique. I think how we package it. I think the other area that we really spent a lot of time is the automation, the system, the control systems. How do you automate that? Because what you don't want to run into a situation where there's an individual on the end of the control making that decision. This has to be instantaneous, right? So how do you, using machine learning, and now we're evolving to AI, elements of AI, that actually takes that decision point, and how do you harmonize a fleet? How do you optimize a fleet to have the best emissions profile, the best operating time, considering maintenance and considering all the other inputs to everything we do every day, every single minute. So it's not just about the mechanics. It's about the people. It's about the digitization. It's all the technologies that we're
well, I'm gonna challenge you two on that. I think that if we're gonna get a bunch out of this podcast, but I think that particular offering is so cool, so unique, that I just remember the just the power behind it was such that I remember you're like, now watch this, and nothing. I remember it being a jarring moment and nothing moving different, and I remember thinking that seems really revolutionary to be able to pull field gas, not a loss of power, and then it keeps moving.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that how you guys choose to tell that story is another story, but I hope that you guys get the opportunity to tell.
Yeah.
The technology that comes out of the oil field is pretty damn impressive, no matter who it is and who's producing it. But I think y'all do have some unique advantages in your approach with customers and truly building a system that's built for them, and having the ability to continually improve that and challenge yourself, because there's always room for improvement. Look at me.
And I think part of that is the differentiation is that one of the pieces that we really capped that we felt like was our kind of our golden nugget was our engineering capability, our in-house engineering capability, and there's tremendous suppliers out there today in the industry, but having your own team kind of internal that has oil field services in their background and they understand what happens in the field has allowed us to make changes on the fly, to innovate, to get to this point. And then certainly really where it closes the response time is when you have challenges, that team is right there to fix and go. And we've seen some amazing things that we're super proud of around our engineering team, is because the Titan, it's innovative, right? It didn't come off the shelf. I mean, this is the engineering team that work with other suppliers to get it where it is today. But it's how fast you can react, to keeping the crew operational, and that's what our engineering team provides us.
So one question I've got for you guys, in the way you think about your business, you work for the operators, the E&P companies, and as do a lot of other service companies. The E&P companies, with the exception of a few, really don't do anything other than they find the land, they secure the capital, and they come to you guys and say, these are our plans, help us execute. We want you to execute at the best possible pricing we can achieve, blah, blah, blah. So with all that being said, they're under a lot of pressure, not only to show return to their shareholders, but they're also under a lot of pressure to address environmental impact. And a big area of discussion is emissions, which I think I just got to plug it and say governance is what drives good corporate behavior, whether it's talking about social aspects of the business or environmental aspects of the business. But all that being said, talk to us about emissions. There are a lot of folks, peer companies, equipment manufacturers, packagers, fabricators that are making a lot of statements around emissions profile and how they're measuring emissions. How do you guys think about emissions and how emissions are measured, not historically from a conventional fleet perspective, but really talking about Titan? How do y'all think about that? Do you have any?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, David. I mean, it really starts back into the fundamental basis of our equipment design, and it was, one of the objectives as we laid things out. Your end goal of having a fleet that meets a lot of today's ESG goals and frankly tomorrow's ESG goals stems from how you design the equipment. And we took that into consideration. And so when Warren talked about putting these different components together and ultimately deciding on the route of direct drive mechanical transfer of energy, it really started there, because you really have to think about a lot of different aspects. And I think that's some of the challenge today is everyone's learning around ESG and how you calculate your total CO2 equivalent, or are you talking GHG, talking non-GHG, a lot of these different attributes, right? And so really it goes back, there's a lot that goes into it. You can't simplify this. And so it starts with the basic fuel that you're using, and what type of fuel. Are you using diesel, using kerosene, you using natural gas? It starts there, so that's a key component. And then you have to take into account how you transfer that energy, and so with every transfer of energy, how you generate it to, that end state where you need to apply it, there's different things that happen. And so you can lose power along the way, which may change the amount of fuel you need to burn. And so we also took that into consideration, because you want to minimize the power losses when you transfer that that energy. And so direct drive mechanical is one way. Diesel reciprocating engines are another way. And then you have electric, which is, some of the other, but there's a lot of other power losses that you have to go through. And then it's the whole, that's one piece. Then you have to look at what are the operating conditions, because operating conditions change the emissions profile and elevation, temperature, rate, idle time, and then ultimately the way that the equipment is configured and how it's put together. And there isn't really one silver bullet for every single operating condition, right? And so what we tried to do is we tried to look at that in entirety and say, how do we address the majority of the major, oil and gas basins in North America? And so ultimately it drove us down this direction. I think to answer your question, so we did all the early calculations, but then we got to this point. We're really going all in on this, and we're kind of the loner out there, and this is very innovative, and we're not buying this off the shelf. So we got to make sure this is the right way. So ultimately we stepped back in, was it April? April of this year, and we just decided, what, we're gonna test it, and we're gonna do actual emissions profile testing. And so we ended up hiring a third party group that specializes in this. We don't have the special, we don't know this, and we brought them in to do both GHG and non-GHG testing. We wanted to understand the emissions through the whole cycle, whole horsepower profile of our engines, from idle all the way to high horsepower, because you got to know it all, because you're in a real operating cycle. You go through all these different phases. And we wanted to understand it on diesel, because that's our contingency fuel, and we wanted to understand it on natural gas. And so ultimately we brought them in to do a whole test. And to do that, we also decided that, what we're comparing to our OEM specifications are really in a perfect environment, this is what the engine will do, and sometimes removing parasitic losses and some of these things that drive, worse emissions. So in order to really, put ourselves to test, we took a commercialized unit right out of the field. We brought it to the testing center, didn't touch it, let them hook up all of the apparatuses and tested it. And we're extremely pleased with what we found. Our results were actually better than what we expected. And so with that, we've now gone to the lengths of putting together a emission calculator so that we can put this right into our program, and ultimately our goal is to be able to monitor these emissions real time.
So you can provide that data in real time to a client, but certainly on a per job basis or stage basis, or
we
quarterly
look at,
or annually.
Yeah, we want to emulate different conditions, like Caleb said. Whether you're operating the Permian, you're dealing with higher altitudes, higher temperatures, depending on the season. Mm-hmm. Has a direct effect to the performance of the turbine, the emissions, that type of thing. So we've taken all that into consideration. We're I'll put a plug in now, but we're going to publish a white paper that just really talks to the math. We're trying to debunk a lot of information out there today, and how people use information to the best outcome. All we're doing is we're just trying to show, here's the math that's been further validated by actual emissions testing. And we do the comparisons, and it's a straightforward process. So as Caleb said, I don't believe we have the silver bullet. There are other competing technologies, but I believe that when I think about its applicability in a broader form, it's very attractive in most cases, right? And so as we continue to evolve and optimize that, I think that's where we're leading to, right? So,
Caleb said something, tomorrow's ESG goals. Mm-hmm. It's funny to think about that. I mean, because ESG came on pretty quickly to a lot of people, to where it was a reactionary thing to some groups. And now it's taken hold. It's widely accepted. It's here. It is what it is, and it's been great, really, for the industry. But that's the first time I've heard it called tomorrow's ESG goals.
Because it's changing.
Yeah. Well, and I want to touch on that because it's interesting when you see people talk about ESG today, and again, it's a misunderstanding of around GHG or CO2e. Is that inclusive of methane or not? I find it alarming that we're discounting methane. I mean, methane to me is the next hurdle. How do we address that as well? And today, when you talk about EPA compliance, it doesn't consider methane. There's other challenges with that. So we're stepping back.
You mean a governmental organization did not fully contemplate all these things?
Yeah. I'm a guest.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, we have to look at the broad picture, and that's what we've been trying to address, right? So.
Yeah, I think it's interesting though, and I think the one
David will get us in trouble on this kind of stuff before it. We
yeah. That was a non-political
no,
statement.
you're great. You're great. It's a fair question.
I try to make apolitical statements.
That's right.
It's really common sense, which is uncommon these days. But,
Victoria we have a red button to Victoria Beard at Piper.
Yeah.
She just hits the red button and it just shuts us down.
That was it.
Yeah.
She's our conscience.
There you go.
Yeah, Victoria, we have a love-hate relationship with, but we really love Victoria. But one thing I want to go on and say, when you think about your business, and I think about where you guys came from, largely Schlumberger, and in a number of these larger companies for the longest time, there was a concept called HS&E, and then it moved. We threw a Q in there. So this whole concept of ESG has been in the forefront of a lot of companies' minds for years. The one thing that they've escaped from, somewhat intentionally, I would say, and maybe dubiously, is the G part, the governance part. Because to your point, if you're not measuring it, you can't get better. And sometimes some people are scared to measure it because, it's not moving as fast enough or it doesn't fit the narrative, this, that, and the other. So, I think in a lot of ways this has been good for the industry to a degree. Because it certainly brought the discussion of this to the forefront and allows us as an industry to talk about the fact that, hey, as Caleb said earlier, I love the outdoors. And I know you do too, Warren. It's like we don't want to destroy the world that we live in, but we have a certain level of expectation for our modern life that we want to keep going. So I applaud you guys for what you're doing and what you've done. And continue to do in terms of trying to provide us oil and gas in a very cost-effective and safe manner because we need it. It's going to be around for quite a while.
Where are you guys operating right now?
So yeah, we chose the Haynesville more from the standpoint of infrastructure. It's a natural gas use product. We have a very strong clientele. I can't say enough about the support we've had from our clients as well. So it just seemed like it was the right environment. It's one of the harshest environments.
Yeah, it is.
So we felt like putting equipment, direct drive turbine technology, as I said, it started in the 60s. Dowell, I think, was around 1966, operated in West Texas with, I have an interesting news article. But as I think the evolution of that, people have attempted it in the past, and there's been kind of mixed results. So we felt like there was one of the hurdles we wanted to overcome is testing an environment that we could disprove or basically get confidence around the equipment design itself. And so Haynesville became that market, right? And we've had tremendous success. We've grown quickly. We do have an opportunity now. We're growing into Canada. Permian, I get asked the question all the time, what about the Permian? You can't ignore it. No, you can't. We just felt like we needed to get grounded. We needed to stay focused. Permian is definitely where we want to be. We can't get back there quick enough, but I think we just want to evolve here a little bit further than where we are.
Did personnel decisions have anything to do with that? I mean, Haynesville versus Permian. I mean, just because I know it's hard to get people.
No, but again, the Permian, we made a decision to, not to go there in a downturn. We had great people, and there's still great people we talk to and are in connection with today to go back. It was just a difficult environment. I think with the overabundance of equipment there, the oversupply. The pricing, it was really difficult to go in there and say, look, I got something shiny new, pay me more, right? So it was just a battleground I felt like we didn't need to go to yet, right? So
when is chapter 2?
I think we're entering. I mean, I think we're.
Is this a part of chapter 2? And I don't mean to be funny about it. I mean, is it kind of coming out like this part of chapter 2?
Yeah, I saw some stuff the other day. You know, I always joke about LinkedIn and that with David, and you know how much I like these podcasts and stuff, right? But you know, I called David up, quite frankly, and said I feel like now, you know, we've got great success. We got some contracts signed up. We're moving forward. We're building out fleets. I felt let's get our story out there a little bit more. And again, we're very focused on what we want to do. We're very humble. There's a lot we don't know yet, but I think we're at a place that I feel comfortable to start to explore, you know, and tell our story more, right? So.
Well, when you explode, we're going to take all the credit for it.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah. I think we've learned that's one thing. Explosion.
We're not planning on that.
Wrong word. When you get popular.
Slow, steady fade.
Well, either way, we just like to take credit for people's efforts. We're very good at that on the Oilfield
I appreciate
360.
you guys, and you know, listen to your stuff too. So I think you guys are doing a great job of helping tell the stories.
Did you hear they said I'm doing a great job?
Yeah, he did say you're doing
I give him
a
credit.
great job.
Well, it's all right. So we're going to wind this down here. One of the things that we like to do to our guests or for our guests is give them a moment like not everyone's going to get an hour with you guys, right? Individually or otherwise. And it's a gift, quite honestly. I mean, there's a mentorship that goes along with podcasts that it's truly, I mean, not just this podcast, but really any of these that are good and quality produced. There's a lot of information that people can have access to that they didn't have access to. So I view podcasts as just I don't even really know, just kind of like a lunch with a guy or a girl that you can learn from. So one of the things that we like to ask is, you know, is there a pearl of wisdom, a piece of, you know, advice that you would give, you know, 20-year or 30-year ago, Caleb or Warren, that you would give yourself that piece of advice, or somebody that's not going to ever get an hour with you, that you would like to, and Caleb, we'll give you first dibs here, because he has 30 years of wisdom to go through. You only have 20. So
right.
Is there something that you would give yourself to say, this is something that I think is worth keeping in the forefront?
Yeah. Well, after what we've been through in the last many years, I think one of the key things that we've learned is just that, you know, we kind of had a vision for where we wanted to go. And I think even if you don't, you believe in something. And I think that you just got to keep at it. And whether it was what we went through, you know, 2 years ago or what we go through on a daily basis, things don't go to plan all the time, right? And I think that you just got to keep going forward. You got to keep, you know, innovating and problem solving. And you know, everybody gets knocked down. It's not just some people. Everybody gets knocked down. It's just how you react, how you respond that make the difference between you and maybe somebody else. So.
Okay.
Yeah, success looks a lot like failure, as they say.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. No, I mean,
real quick.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Did you were your parents instrumental in that? Like, where did that everybody gets knocked down? Is that just something that life threw at you that you've learned that lesson, or is that something you came up really being instilled in you at a young age?
Well, I think, I mean, I've been extremely fortunate. I've been around a lot of other great leaders. I've been around great companies. I mean, you know, things can go really, really well for a long time. And, you know, all of a sudden, you know, you can find yourself on the wrong side of, you know, something that happens. I mean, shoot, I think COVID, you know, probably dealt a lot of people a lot of blows. And I guarantee you there's some companies that don't exist today. And then there's others that found a way through, you know, no matter what, you know, they were dealt, they figured out a path through it. And maybe they don't even look like how they do, you know, before. I think we're a great example of that. We looked remarkably different, you know, prior to March of last year. You know, but, you know, as Warren said it, I look at where we are now. I couldn't be prouder of the team, the group, you know, the product that we're delivering, the partners, our clients that we have. Couldn't be prouder. And if you would have asked me, you know, would you be here a year ago? I guarantee you that, you know, that might not have been my answer. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, wrap us up here. What pearl of wisdom or piece of advice would you give yourself?
Well, I mean,
or others?
Maybe that's why we hit it off. I mean, a lot of what Caleb said is, you know, I hold true as well. I think for me, sometimes it's stepping back and making sure you step back and reevaluate. A lot of times you can get far down a path and not challenge yourself, look in the mirror, ask the right questions, ask the hard questions. You know, gut instinct for me is something that I feel like sometimes if it feels wrong, maybe it is, and it's okay to take a pause and rethink. And I wish a couple of times in my past that I would say I wish I would have done it, right? And
did you feel it at the moment that upon further review you were like, man, I felt it then?
Yeah, I think in our last chapter, I think I felt it early on. Unfortunately, we got into a place that we then had to fight out of it, and I think we were doing a great job getting there. The market wasn't there, and the situation changed, so got punched in the face, right?
Yeah.
But I think looking back, people, to me, I wear a lot when I think about the impact to others, and probably to a fault sometimes, making decisions around that too. But I think just asking the hard questions, just take the time, step back. Don't get so zeroed in on something you miss the obvious, right? And,
ask yourself the hard questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think that's a hard, easier than it sounds, right? To step back and look at, hey, am I on the right path here, right? So
I was the way I translate that to myself is you cannot lie to yourself.
Yeah.
You can lie to other people, but if you lie to yourself, you're in real trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So
I was thinking you were going to say something like, if you're going to buy a pontoon boat, don't go with just 300 horsepower. Go with 600.
double down. It's redundancy. It's redundancy.
Double down. Well, so I kind of want to send, one of the other things we do is offer people, this is going to get a lot of world exposure here. I would send people to your website, but it's a holding page at the moment.
Yeah, it's not very fancy. We're getting there.
Okay.
One of the things when we were true to ourselves and we entered this, I'll just say that we told ourselves we are not going to fall into the traps again. We're going to keep ourselves at a size that we can stomach another difficult market, and we're going to hold true to that. So we had to prioritize and things, building websites and all the fancy stuff. We're working on it now, so we'll turn it on soon. Next couple of weeks we should have our first page of that. But
it's bjenergy.com.
bjenergy.com.
So
yeah.
By the time this actually posts,
it
might be up there. So
yeah.
And then you have a LinkedIn page as well, so that way they can follow you guys on LinkedIn.
Yes. Yeah.
And when are y'all going to publish the emissions white paper?
Yeah, good point.
Let's say next week. So probably by the time this goes out, it'll be live. So.
Where will that be published?
We're going to probably post it on our website and maybe circulate outside a small audience too. So
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, following the white paper too, I should mention we've had some great support. We've teamed up with a professor at West Virginia University who's helping us through some of this too. He's an emissions expert. We're actually co-authoring a technical paper with him as well that I think will, for those that actually want to do the deep dive and the real theoretical work is part of that as well. That's going to come up to support. So
okay. Well, you guys are great, and again, it's been a pleasure getting to know you guys the last couple of years too.
Yeah, thanks, Josh.
Congrats on the move back to Denver.
Yeah,
Denver, right?
Yeah, Denver,
okay,
yeah.
that's you've abandoned us in Texas. I don't blame you. I'd get out the summer heats, or it's probably better up there. But congrats on that move with your family. Congrats on the move, and I know you guys have been through a lot, but it sounds like it's. I look forward to chapter 2 and 3 and the rest of the book you guys are writing. So
very good.
So good luck to you guys.
Yeah.
David, is there anything you want to talk about as we close down here?
No. I think we covered the waterfront.
Okay.
Covered the waterfront. I think it was a good discussion. It's going to be interesting to see how things develop and across the sector. But appreciate you guys being
certainly
here.
in a better spot. Oil's at 84 right now. Gas, I don't really know exactly where it is today. Somewhere it's higher than it was.
550-ish.
That's. Yeah. I almost said that, but I was afraid it was too high.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I knew that's what it was. I just didn't want to say it out loud. I can't believe it's that high.
I guess my only concern, I would say, is that I'm concerned about commodity prices getting too high because it will ultimately elicit behavior. It'll get us back into a bad place again. I think if we can maintain where we are, that's good for everybody for a long time. And you think about the circular economy, while folks are concerned about gas prices at the pump, this, that, and the other, having a strong energy business is good for everybody. I mean, oil and gas makes modern life possible today. And so I hope if we do see $100 oil, it's for the same period of time that we saw -40, because I think otherwise we're going to see a lot of folks come into the market just capitalistic tendencies can't help themselves and put us in a bad spot.
And Warren, you're speaking at the Thrive conference in February.
Yeah, John's convinced me. Yeah,
he's persistent.
He's persistent.
Yeah, but it's
he's another guy I've been putting on for 2 years, by the way. So.
Yeah, so that'll be good. So we'll get to hear you speak about that. And that's probably 4 months from now. So that's some good time to develop as well.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna just have a shoe shine stand and a couch there at the Thrive conference.
That's perfect. Rent out a suite.
Yeah, I saw more people just sitting at the boot shine stand. Just came up and talked to me. I mean, I must have had 30 or 40 people there. I had to keep paying the gal even though she wasn't shining my boots anymore. It was just a good spot. You had to take the high ground,
yeah.
you know?
There you go.
Well, on that note, we'll just give John a quick plug. If you're looking to be involved in the Thrive Conference, contact John Daniel or Bill Austin at danielep.com. So,
or Sean Mitchell, too. He loves getting phone calls.
Yeah. Sean at danielep.com. That's just, that's exactly what to send it to. Well, all right, as usual, if there's any complaints, send those to David at oilfield360.com. If there's any compliments, send those to Josh at oilfield360.com. I don't read complaint emails, so it's perfect. So, David, it feels good to be back.
That's good.
I mean, I'm better than I was. I can't believe it.
You're constantly improving, Josh.
This is continuous improvement. And I haven't even done anything.
Yeah.
This is great. Thank you, gentlemen. This is wonderful.
Thank you, guys.
Anything else? That's it. Look us up on all our social media, www.oilfield360.com. We're going to be having a big announcement coming up. But yeah, we're on every social media channel. We're on every podcast platform. Thank you for the support. We did just hit a major milestone. Yes, David.
I just want to say one thing because
Yes.
I think it's good. It was something I told some of our guys the other day and I think it applies to all of our audience. Everybody needs to be like a buffalo. And what does that mean? That means buffalo, when bad winter storms come, they go walk through them. They don't sit there and freeze to death like cows. So when the tough gets going, you got to get tough and just go through it. So I think you can apply that message in all aspects of your life.
I like that. We may cut and edit that one to the middle of the show.
Yeah.
Because by this time, they already heard me make fun of David. They have shut this one down. That's too good of advice not to.
The funny, I got to tell a story to that. Before the Titan, I wanted to use Bison. Bison was. The problem is that was a legacy BJ product, so we ultimately had to move on to the superhero.
Yeah. There we go. All right, guys. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Hanaro, thanks.
The Oilfield 360 podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors. United Airlines. As Houston's hometown airline, United has long been the preferred carrier of the energy sector. United for Business offers a range of programs and discounted travel options built for all of your energy, resource, and marine travel needs. Get started at united.com/business. Piper Sandler. The energy and power team of Piper Sandler is committed to the global energy industry and delivers exceptional client services in M&A advisory, capital markets execution, institutional sales, and investment research. For more information, please visit pipersandler.com/energy and power. Prang & Associates, the global energy search leader. Prang & Associates is the world's leading executive search firm totally dedicated to the energy industry. Over our 39 years, we have assisted more than 750 management teams and boards in 75 countries and conducted nearly 3,600 engagements. For more information, please visit prang.com. Range Valuation Services. Range is the only oil and gas-focused valuation and appraisal firm in the financial services industry. Range specializes in appraising and valuing oil field equipment, machinery, inventory, and property, and customarily works directly with clients, lenders, investment bankers, insurers, and private equity and debt sponsors. For more information, please visit rangevaluationservices.com. Daniel Energy Partners. In-basin research you can trust. A leading provider of U.S. oilfield research, known for its original boots-on-the-ground research approach, as well as its famous barbecue events. Daniel Energy Partners utilizes both its extensive network of top oilfield professionals and frequent in-basin field tours to provide real-time market intelligence. Visit danielep.com for information. Locked In Global Energy and Marine, uncommonly independent. Locked In is the world's largest privately owned insurance broker and risk finance advisor. Lockton's global energy expertise is centered in Houston and represents the largest concentration of energy specialists, clients, and experiential knowledge in the upstream, midstream, and downstream segments of the oil and gas industry. Visit Lockton.com for more information. Upright Digital. Upright Digital specializes in partnering with your business to maximize marketing efficiencies. We have a deep understanding of people, their needs, motivations, behaviors, as well as the technologies that enable brands in many industries to utilize what is available in a changing digital landscape. Find us online at uprightdigital.com.